From the PSIA-AASI satellite studios in Corvallis, Oregon, I'm George Thomas. You're listening to First Chair. We're on with Pete Allison, Angelo Ross. Guys, it's always wonderful chatting with you, and thank you for taking the time.
Great to be here, George.
So, kind of
Thanks,
a
George.
different topic tonight, but I really want to get this out there. Why should I look? I work at a great mountain. I've got a good training staff. I really am learning a lot from the people that I work with. Why should I go to a PSIA education event at another area? Takes me away from work. It can be expensive. How can I look at that maybe as an investment in myself? And what am I going to get out of that that I would get maybe more from attending a training at my own mountain? Angelo, let's start with you.
Wow, that's such a great question, George. And I've spoken to this before. I mean, I'll just throw a word out there because I don't want to dominate the conversation, but I look at that as an investment in an enrichment activity. You know, and we can spend our money on a variety of things. We can buy stuff, we can buy entertainment, we can buy enrichment, and a lot of times there's overlap. But I look at that as total enrichment, expeditionary learning, meeting new people, parking in a strange spot, figuring it out, put you in the mindset of somebody who's new to your area that you're very comfortable with. I think there are about a million great reasons to do it.
Pete, anything to add to that?
I'm absolutely agree with Angelo. For me, it's hard to comprehend why you wouldn't want to do that. To me, I just, and maybe it's just the kind of person I am. I'm always looking for new experiences, and I just think it's fun. I think it's so fun to go to a different resort and to ski different runs, and to see how things operate. And you know, as Angelo was talking, I was thinking about you know, the same happens in universities. You know, in universities you get people who do their undergraduate degree in that university, they do the master's degree in that university, they do the PhD in that university, they then get a job in that university as a junior lecturer, assistant professor, whatever the system is, and then they spend the rest of their life working in that university, and they know one way to do things. And I know because I've worked with some of these people. They know one way to do things and they have a narrow view of the world. And then you get these people who have done a degree here and a degree here and a degree there, and they've worked here and they've worked there and they've worked there. And they're just so much richer, more expansive. They can think about, well, we could do it this way, we could do it that way. I think it's exactly the same in snow sports. You see these different places, you see different styles, you ski in different countries, and it opens your mind. It makes you into a much better kind of geezer.
Well, I've got to say, when I started teaching in 1986, I was at a little area in Oregon called Hoodoo Ski Bowl, and we had a great training team and very enthusiastic, dedicated instructors. And we had a visiting clinician come, which I had never heard of at the time. But Rick Saul, who was on the Northwest Tech team, came, and I got to ski with him for a day, and it changed my whole outlook on what I mean, that's when I decided I want to do this full time. I want to get my full certification. I want to be on the tech team. I really want to move up in this division. And I was so fired up after that lesson. And I remember it well, 37 years later. Uh, it really had an impact on me. And that wasn't going to an outside event, it was bringing in a person with a lot of great skill to our area. But having that happen actually got me motivated to start going to events because I wanted to be exposed to that type of education. And it's just amazing.
I mean, I guess one way of thinking about it might be just to think, you know, if people are part of the association has professional in the title. If I go for a lesson somewhere, I expect the person who teaches me to have skied at a number of different resorts. I expect them to have some kind of breadth and depth in their experience that gives them some credibility to teach me. And so, I'm not saying that everybody should, be able to, you can only work if you can fly around the world and you can go to lots of places. Of course, that's nice if you can, but we can expand our horizons based on what our opportunities are and try and explore different areas. So when somebody says to you, "Oh, I'm thinking of what how do you what do you think of the skiing here in comparison to?" You've got an answer. You can talk to that. Or people say, "I'm thinking about going somewhere else. Where would you recommend?" You can engage in the conversation. Your response isn't, "Well, I've only ever skied here, so I don't really know." I watched a video once. So I think that kind of that's part of being a professional, is about expanding your horizons. It's about continuing to learn. It's a form of, if you like, continuing professional development or ongoing learning.
Yeah,
A
I've been
very
very
similar.
fortunate the last couple of years to start my season with the season kickoff at PSIA-AASI, and ties in with Nutcracker time too. So I get to ski and dance. But it really, starting off the season at a visiting clinic, um, that's been just wonderful for me, because you're starting off learning and working on your own skiing, your teaching development, and you're with a bunch of people who are from a wide variety of areas that are really excited to be there. And it's a nice way to meet people that have a similar interest and make new friends.
I had a very similar experience to yours, George, I think in the early 90s when I hadn't traveled very much, and I may have been to a handful of resorts local to where I am now in southwestern Pennsylvania, but there was a crew of Eastern examiners who were full time, and they were on the road, and probably familiar names for a lot of folks: Billy Bierman, Bob Shostak, Lanny Tapley. And I remember having a conversation with Lanny sometime in the early 90s, and I was level 2 and considering level 3. I was a college student, so a lot of moving parts. But Lanny pulled me aside and said, "Look, if you want to get good at this, if you want to develop, you're going to have to go work on a big mountain, because you guys don't even have level 3 terrain here." And that just like pulled the rug out from underneath me. I was just starting to figure out what standards were and levels of certification and stuff like that, for real. And um, his advice was to travel. So it wasn't the following year, it might have been 2 years after that. I ended up going to Killington for a while and teaching the British invasion at the end of the season. They get a ton of Brits on 7 or 10 day holiday coming over, and um, took advantage of that, and really started to understand how much I didn't know. And that was a big moment in my development, and then I fast forward 30 years or whatever. Um, and traveling is now my normal. I work at 3 resorts. We have 3 resorts here in southwestern Pennsylvania: Seven Springs, Hidden Valley, and Laurel Mountain, all purchased by and owned by Vail. Um, I don't even have a locker anymore because I travel so much. But we have staff who haven't skied at the other resorts. Like, say somebody's home hill is Hidden Valley, that's where they teach. They haven't skied at Laurel Mountain or Seven Springs. And to Pete's point, I personally wouldn't want to be in the situation where a student says, "Hey, I'm thinking about going to Seven Springs tomorrow. What should I expect there?" And to not have an answer. So, there's the enrichment development piece, there's the professional piece, and then there's just the fun piece. Holy cow, figuring out the restaurants, seeing, where the cool runs are. There's really, Pete, I love what you said at the beginning. Like, why wouldn't you do it? I'm going to jump on that. I'm going to jump on that train. Why wouldn't you?
Well, there's such a wide variety of things to choose from. What are some things you should look at if you've never done this before and you're trying to get an idea of, "Yeah, I am going to make an investment in myself here. What's the best way for me to do it?" look to see if Angelo is coaching it.
Being all polite. I don't know. I think I would encourage somebody to like, you could approach it a couple of different ways. If you want the full on, like, tourist experience, just kind of figure it out like a trip. Get on Google Maps, figure out the drive, like get online, figure out the restaurants. Where do you want to eat? I would encourage people, if they do that, to not only look at the area, but look around the area and see what's available for food and stuff like that. And talk to locals, ride up the chair with people. I think another way to do it that could be just as valuable is a little bit more of an insider approach. If you have trainers on your staff who you think may know people where you're going, see if they can make a connection, and then get that go with a local kind of vibe, which is also very, very cool. You probably ski some cooler spots. You might learn where the locals go afterward for a little bit of food and après. So I think there are different ways to go about it, but in any case, just like sort of taking a structured approach so you maximize the time while you're there, and hopefully minimize the money.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's strong advice right there. There's 101 different ways to do this. I think and it doesn't have to be something you throw money at. It doesn't have to be a money sink. But I think if you call up, or if you've got somebody at your resort, as Angelo says, who knows somebody somewhere, use those connections, use that network, and maybe they'll be able to, even if it's just 5 minutes, and say, hey, good to meet you. Where do you think the good snow will be today? Oh, well, I'd head over there. What are you looking for? Okay, try that. That kind of thing. I think is really good. I think if, and this is maybe, for some people, maybe it's a bigger financial investment. If you work at a smaller ski area, go and explore a bigger one. If you work at a bigger one, or you've got experience at bigger ones, go to some smaller ones. Figure out what it's like to, ski on 300 or 400 feet of vertical all day long on 2 runs, and see what that does for your skiing. If you're used to skiing on miles and miles and miles of opportunities and that kind of thing, if you ski mostly in the west, try skiing in the east. If you ski in the east, try skiing in the west. Try, people say to me often, oh, we're going to we're taking the family skiing, where should we go? And of course people tend to lean towards bigger resorts. They often do that, and they say, well, yeah, but you could also think about some of the smaller ones. Think about some of the resorts in the Midwest that have fabulous snow, lake effect snow often, and they know how to manage it. They have great instructors, and you don't need tons of terrain when you're just beginning to learning to ski. So support some local resorts. So I just think that there's a whole lot of options that, if we start to think about it, it becomes interesting, right? Oh, I wonder what it's like skiing in Wyoming. I wonder what it's like skiing in Wisconsin. I wonder what it's like ... And just, one of my kind of, I think it might say this on my gravestone, is we learn more from where there's difference than where there's similarity. So if we hang around with people who look like us and think like us, we kind of become an echo chamber. Same applies for, if we spend time with people who think differently from us, that expands our horizons. Same with different ski and ride areas. Try different ones, go and explore them, and you'll learn stuff. There's no question. You'll pick things up.
I really like what you're both saying, because it's easy to look at the calendar if I'm getting ready for my level 1, my level 2, or my level 3, because you look for an exam prep clinic, something like that. But maybe I'm not interested in going after a certification. What are some other things that might be available that would be interesting and really help me become a better instructor?
When Pete mentioned Michigan, it made me think of cross country skiing too. And I'd throw that in as an addition. Try another discipline, and somebody going to Michigan from a big mountain may look at it and say, oh, look, the hills are small. Well, that's cool. See what that's like. See the rhythm of skiing on a small hill for a day, like Pete suggests. But then on the second day, try cross country. Man, cross country skiing is gnarly. It Balancing on that lightweight gear is hard, and it makes you a better athlete. And you brought up exams, George. I very often encourage people who are getting ready for certification exams to try cross country skiing. Have a distraction, but this distraction is going to show you if you're balanced on your feet. And there are lessons to be learned. So I'd throw that in there as a suggestion.
Love it.
So
Pete, we're looking at you.
I'm smiling, Angelo, because I'm leaving tomorrow for Norway, and I'm going to work with some colleagues on an outward bound peace building course. But part of it involves a 2-day cross country trip camping in the middle, somewhere north of Bergen. And I'm very excited about it. And I'm also thinking to myself, this is going to be fun. This is going to be fun, and there'll be a whole lot of learning, with full pack of camping gear.
Yeah.
On cross country ski. So I'm excited to see how they do that, and how that kind of works out there. It'll be fun.
Angela, I'm kind of hung up on Pete's tone of this is going to be fun.
Do you remember the episode we did on the words we use, George? I'm not convinced Pete believes the words he just said.
I might have a slightly different definition of fun to you.
I think it's yeah. Cross country skiing is real and raw, and it is so cool. Going under your own power, not being able to cheat on stiff pair of boots, like it's real. I have a lot of respect for people who do it, and a lot of love for the sport. It's just a great thing.
Angelo, bringing up a different discipline, you really made me think about, because I'm hearing a lot of encouragement for instructors to get involved with adaptive, and possibly an adaptive clinic would be good for our teaching. And would that be good for our own skiing?
Absolutely. Had the honor and privilege to work at the national team selection last year, and went with the adaptive group a couple of days, and just in conversation with Jeff Krill, the head coach of our adaptive crew, the way adaptive instructors think in terms of problem solving is next to none. It's just fantastic. And teachers can learn a lot from working with any students, athletes, whatever, with special needs, because when you have to come up with a unique solution, real time, that just absolutely makes you better at teaching, and it makes that person's life and experience better. And that's all win. I think that's a great suggestion, George.
Anything to add about other disciplines? Or, well, you said Nordic. I've tried snowboarding many times, and I'm hideous. But you know what? Every time I leave, having done an afternoon of snowboard attempts, I feel I'm a much better skier afterward, because it's broadened my horizons quite a bit.
Mm-hmm. With the number of family lessons that are being taught, and often those are mixed discipline. I keep coming back to this, this teacher responsibility, which I believe in. I believe teachers do have a responsibility to immerse themselves in a lot of different activities. And we owe it to our students, but it helps us become autonomous as teachers. And going to, say from skiing to snowboarding, where there's a 90-degree shift in how things work. But once you understand that it's really about flattening that gear to get it on the new edge, and how do you do that? It's like learning another language, you know, and I think it makes you better at movement analysis. It makes you better at providing instruction, because I'm definitely, my background is mostly in alpine, but I have a level 1 snowboard, and I have, when I do teach a snowboard lesson, I struggle to come up with the language and the words to make my point. Like, it's very natural for me to talk about alpine skiing, but to say something to somebody who's trying to learn how to snowboard challenges me. And I know somewhere down deep, it's making me better at it, at being a teacher. And I think that's a great suggestion too, George.
I think the question is, how do we should all be thinking about, and keep circling back to, is how do I expand my horizons? You know, and that is often just about by saying yes. You know, here's an opportunity, say yes to it, and try and say yes as the default. And then, you know, how do we expand our horizons? Everything we do, you know. So we have a dog, and I spend a lot of my time walking the dog, and so I listen to podcasts, and I always try and listen to a bigger and bigger range of podcasts. So I try and expand and spin out, and, you know, and try and do that with people, you know. So that's as you were talking about snowboarding, it made me think about, you know, in December I was in Michigan with for the Central training, and spent a lot of time with Chris Rogers. Just great, you know, great conversation, and you know, listen to their podcast regularly. And I'm not really a snowboarder, but it is fascinating, and just opening up to different disciplines, different ways of thinking. Doesn't mean you have to agree with everything, but sometimes the challenge is, if you don't agree with something, is to figure out, well, just quite why is it that I disagree with that, or why do I, you know, what do I think about it? And so I think that kind of idea of just how do we keep opening our horizons, how do we keep learning and not get stale, that takes a conscious effort. And by doing that, we become better teachers, no question, no doubt at all.
Last question, Angelo. I know we have the regions across the country. Are the calendars of trainings that are being offered and events being offered, are those available nationwide?
Yes, you can link to any regional calendar through the national website. Yeah. And, you know, we are, because we belong to a national organization, we're absolutely welcome to take events in other regions. And I know a lot of folks who turn that into a vacation. I'm gonna, you know, folks from here, Pennsylvania, will say, "Oh, we have Epic passes. We're gonna go to Vail, and while I'm there, I'm gonna do this clinic for a couple of days." Like, what a great opportunity.
I know Northwest has a symposium, and a couple of years ago they had the Central region come over with some of their trainers, and some of the Northwest region trainers were there. And so a number of instructors from the Central region came over, and symposium was at Sun Valley that year. And it was just great to have clinicians that I've worked with a number of times, and then totally get exposure to clinicians from another region that I'd never met before. And it really made for a fun experience.
You know, and to that point, Jay, you learn such neat things. Like in the East, we say circle ski, and I have learned, and that face you made, like, what is that? That's a line rotation. But you learn these little vernaculars, and I didn't know that until I started to branch out from the East, and it made me richer. Now I know what I'm with folks from the West. If I say circle ski, I'm going to get that look, and, you know, I got to say line rotation. But those are the things that you learn.
And I'd call it a parade of sail.
A what?
Parade of sail.
Pete, Angelo, anything you all want to say in conclusion?
Great topic, George. Love
Yeah,
it.
thanks, George.
From the PSIA-AASI Satellite Studios in Corvallis, Oregon, I'm George Thomas. Thank you, Pete, Allison, Angelo, Ross. Always great to chat with you.